How's everyone doing today? I'm Dylan.
John.
And before we begin, we have another coffee mug shout out.
We have our new Sherm Blogger mug. Thank you so much. I got to be a blogger at this year's um, national conference, so appreciate the cup.
We're running out of space on the shelves for all his coffee mugs, so
We are.
we have to expand a little bit.
Yes.
All right. Well, like I said, thank you all for joining us. Today we're starting on a new topic, and it's actually from the candidate standpoint, finding your next job. So we're going to go ahead and get into it now. Question number one is how to find the right job for you.
Well, I mean, if you're looking for a job, whether you, I guess, are currently employed, or if you are maybe a recent college grad still looking for, I mean, it's still the summer right now, so some people who just graduated, may have taken the summer to sort of just relax and, want to get in the throes of it for the fall. I mean, there's a couple of basics, and then in terms of just consideration, first of all, you may not find the next job you find may not be the one that you have for the rest of your days.
Mm-hmm.
So people have to do some soul searching. What can I deal with to sort of learn what I need to learn to then move on? That isn't so sexy or attractive for some people. They kind of want to start with a job that they really want down the road. So, and I'll pick on you, from the marketing perspective, might you want to start as being a marketing manager, having a team of people? Sure, maybe, but it's not likely that you're going to start that way. And it's also not, your experience is not going to line up with that. So you're going to have to bite the bullet and sort of do some jobs maybe that aren't quite what you want, but at least put you in the running for that job down the road. So you have to contend with that. The other how I would say is, look at your interests. And I know that seems so trite, but it's true. There are plenty of people who are in jobs because they have to, rather than they want to. And while it may sound contradictory to what I just said, yes, there's going to be a time that you have to do a job. But if that job is in the vein of what you're interested in, then you can try to kind of put it in your head that this is getting me somewhere, as opposed to having to do a job that you really have no desire to do anything more with down the road. Find what you like, and also don't be apologetic about it. So I'll give you for example, a client that we work with, they do environmental cleanup. That may not really seem so attractive to a lot of people, but I have to tell you, the people, especially those that have been there a while, who are in that role, love what they do because they feel like they're making a contribution. And even though the work is dirty, they work on weekends. It's emergency response oriented. Their weekends, sometimes they don't have the weekend because there's a spill, there's this, but they love what they do. So if you love that, don't apologize for that. Just because it's a dirty, mucky job, who cares, right? If you love doing that. So I would say you have to look to those interests. Specifically, there are plenty of worthy assessments for you to take to figure out what kind of job would I be best suited for. Based on my interests, based on my skills, based on my education, what would make the most sense for me? Look for something good. And I'm not talking about some Facebook quiz or some Cosmo thing in the back of a magazine. Don't do this. Sorry, Cosmo, I know you're watching. I'm not talking about that kind of 10 question, does he love you? Not that kind of thing, but rather something that has some meat to it. If you have access still to your college and university as an alumni, sometimes they keep that door open to you as a former student for an extended period of time. You can actually still make an appointment and even 5 years later go back in and meet with the career. Now you may have to pay for that, but it's comfortable. You kind of know.
I was actually going to say they have like platforms on there. When I went to Rowan, so they have platforms on there where they ask you a bunch of questions. Do you like doing this? Even things that fell into the line of environment. Do you like helping people? And it was really in depth, and it broke down different types of jobs that you would be interested in.
And to that point, don't dismiss everything that's on that list. No. Think about it for a second. I'm not saying everything is going to be what you want to do, but if you only know one small fraction of what a job really is, and it's not something you like, find out the rest of it.
Mhm.
It's like HR. If HR was only, for me, I'm speaking for me, if my whole life in HR was just taking care of enrollment forms for benefits, I would hate it. I'm being honest, I would hate it. I don't have a problem with enrollment forms since it's not all that I've done in my career. But I didn't necessarily understand how wide HR was until I got in it, in knowing that I had some talents that lent itself there, and then really got exposed to so much more. And so it led me down a path beyond what I originally thought. So I would be thoughtful about that as you try to find where your right step is next for a job.
All right. All right, going into question 2, I think question 1 kind of brings us into question 2. So where to look when seeking new employment?
Yeah. So, obviously online, right?
Mhm.
You definitely can't be ignorant of what's happening online. I would say, though, that be mindful of what you put out there, though, online as well. So if you fill out everything at every job board everywhere imaginable, then be ready to really cull through your emails, because you're going to get a lot of stuff, right? A lot of job hit matches, that sort of thing. I'd also say, don't apply for everything kind of that one button touch. We know that Indeed, for example, from your mobile phone, if you have the Indeed app, you can, they'll say to you, hey, these jobs look like they might be a fit.
I get those emails in my thing every day.
Right.
It's because when I started applying for jobs back in the day, all I would have to press is apply because my resume was already uploaded on the site. So different types of jobs I've never even heard of just keep popping up in my inbox.
And that's exactly it.
Yeah.
That's exactly right. So you didn't even have to read the job description itself. You just hit apply. That's not really a great way, I think, for you to find a job. Quite honestly, you'll become worn out really with a lot of that as well, because it feels like you're applying for a million things. Well, you are. Really be a bit more discerning. Look at the actual job description. Don't just hit that quick apply button. That's not really serving you well. So if you're going to go online, use it to do your homework and research of the role itself. But then the other thing I would say is use the tools online also to look at the employer, right? Check out the brand, go to their websites. Look at some third-party sites that speak about the company. Again, no one thing is going to be what I'd say to use, but look at all of it. If the employer puts out some content, read the content that they put out. If they've been nominated for some awards, what kind of awards? If they have corporate social responsibility and that means something to you, what do they stand behind? Are you connected to anybody, let's say through LinkedIn, which I would recommend, who works for the company or worked for the company? Ask them what their experience is. And take everything with a grain of salt. Someone who left bitter, they're probably not going to give a glowing recommendation, but that may have been their experience. It may be that there was, there's always two sides to the story. Don't just take one thing as being what it's always like, right? But try to gather as much info as you can to do the research on the company. Online is obviously the biggest place to go these days, but I don't want to be dismissive of some job fairs in your areas. Obviously colleges do it, but sometimes some community organizations put job fairs together. I know here in the Philadelphia area, there's veteran job fairs. There are specific skilled job fairs. We're looking for engineers, we're looking for technicians, we're looking in the medical field, and they'll have job fairs that are specific to that. Go to those things. It's really good for you to practice your 30-second, 60-second elevator pitch of what you want to do. Resume in hand, walk up to a table. Hey, how are you? I'm John Baldino, and I'm looking for my next role. Well, what are you interested in? I'm interested in, and be ready to give that 30-second pitch. This is what I'm great at. This is what I'm looking for. This is why I think I could be a value or an asset to your organization. Be ready to do that. I think that's good for you as an individual candidate. Obviously, kind of getting your verbiage together. And then the other thing I'd mention is the other thing that you should do, in terms of practice, is interviewing. Sit with a couple of people who can just ask you. I don't care if it's friends over a beer. Just hit me with some questions you've been given in an interview. Oh, I was asked once this or that. How would you answer it? Practice, right? Get yourself in the habit of interviewing. That's certainly going to help the job search feel better. right? Because you're more prepared.
Going back to what you said online, reading about a company, that'll help you learn more about them. It also helps that if you were to land an interview, it shows the employer that you have done your research on the company.
Absolutely. And
So
you can't just read the front page.
Yeah, the about us or
like go more into that. If you're like, well, our company. Well, I know that you believe in. Well, if that's actually like a verbatim from the website, it's probably not the greatest impression. You just can memorize. Big deal.
Yeah. All right, going into our third and final question is how to let your boss know you're leaving.
Oh, so if you currently have a job and you've got to let your boss know, there's various schools of thought on this. I don't know if I can tackle everything in 2 minutes, but sometimes you're just going to do the 2-week notice, and that might be appropriate. And I would say though, if you want to leave, one of the things that's much more appealing, I believe, about the job market today, and more companies are being willing to participate in what's called boomerang employees. That you may work here for X amount of time, leave and go work somewhere else for 2-3 years, and then come back. And you're bringing back a different skill set, or you've utilized your skill set in a more critical or applied it to a different type of project, and then you bring that back to where you once were. If people are committed to the organization but just want to experience something else that could be a benefit to the company, then you don't want your transition to be contentious. I think it's, again, can be very well received to sit with your immediate manager, HR, and say, hey, here's where I'm at. I'm looking for my next opportunity. I think that I'm interviewing for this role in 1 or 2 places. I'm not saying I have the role, but I just want you to know what I'm thinking. I really am excited about advancing my skill set in this area. But I definitely would want to keep the door open to return. It doesn't mean it will happen, but why not? There's that old expression, the devil you know is better than the one that you don't. If I already have a great working relationship with you and you leave, and 2 to 3 years down the road, you could come back, that's a much more comfortable potential than I don't know you and I'm going to bring you in. You're more of a risk, right? So I think honesty can be helpful. I can't say it works that way for all companies. I know that there are some roles that once you say, I'm thinking about leaving there, don't worry about the 2 weeks. You can just grab your stuff and see you later. There's not much we can do about that. I think employers need to be a bit more sensitive, though, that may not always be the right answer. It doesn't mean that you're ineligible for rehire either, but I think we should be smart about that. I think that if you've developed a rapport with your immediate supervisor to be able to be honest, there are oftentimes supervisors who are amenable to what you're saying, understand why you're looking for a next role, appreciate that you're giving them a heads up that may wind up being 30 or 45 or 60 days notice, so to speak, so that it gives everybody a chance to have a healthier transition. I think that's more positive than not. And again, for everybody listening, I can't say that's how everybody is going to be. But you've got to feel that out a little bit. And I think if you continue to make it be about the job that you're looking for, the skills that you're looking to advance, as opposed to, it sucks here. Every time I go into the vending machine, it eats my quarters. Well, if that's why you're leaving, then of course it's going to be contentious. But if you make it about the job, I think it's less personal, right? It's right now in the work I'm doing, I know I can only go so far. I'm going to gather this experience elsewhere. Maybe I come back, maybe I don't, but that's why I'm looking for something else. I'm not mad at the company. The company can only let me go so far. So I'm ready for that next step, particularly if you're going for something smaller to a mid-sized company or a large company. Be thoughtful.
And I think you actually used that reference before, the boomerang employee.
Yeah.
That we went over. You said they go gain knowledge and you keep, not necessarily the door open, but if time comes around when they want to come back and, you left off on a good note.
Yeah.
You said it's easier for them to come back. And
a lot of times those conversations happen naturally. They're not applying for a job. They may call and say, look, it's been a couple of years. I feel really good. I'm happy where I'm at, but I love this company and I'd love to come back. Here's what I could offer. I don't know if you're looking for anything like that. And then the company might say, we're not really looking for anything like that. or we didn't know we were looking for something like that. We need to make room for you.
Yeah.
And that's great. That's a great compliment.
There we go. All right. Well, that was a lot today.
It was a ton, sorry.
No problem. More info for everybody. Well, we want to thank you all for joining our Facebook Live for today. This will be up on our social media platforms later on this afternoon. Thank you again for tuning in, and we'll see you next time.
Bye-bye.